What is up, everybody? It is Libby, and welcome to Living Intention. I just hit my knee on the desk, so that's why I said that. I hope everyone's doing well. I am also doing well, even though I've been dead silent. I didn't make my expectations. Let's just put it that way. I need to readjust because I thought doing a podcast every other week would be pretty feasible, and then I'm realizing no, it's not. I'm also getting busier here in Central America, which is great, but that means that I got, more stuff to do and less time for a podcast. So I think I'm gonna try to do once a month. We're gonna restart, okay? So this is March podcast, okay? And I thought I'd update you guys on some of my life. So I don't even know where to begin, but basically, I just came back from the United States, from where I'm from, yesterday in the afternoon, and I actually was supposed to come back. Today's Thursday for me. I was supposed to come back Tuesday or Monday. I was supposed to come back Monday, and my flight my first flight was delayed, so I'd missed my connecting flight. And they were like, I was at the airport. And so I was like, well, because they had notified me that it's going to be delayed like an hour before my flight. And I just didn't see my phone. I didn't check it. Whoops. And so I got there and they were like, yeah, sorry. And I was like, oh, that's fine, And so I was like, well, where are the flights tomorrow? And they're like, none. And I was like, no. None. I was like, that's crazy. So I was like, okay, what about Wednesday? Like, I'm not in a rush. I have a very flexible job. I am in a little bit of a rush, but not like other people who they only have 5 vacation days or something. And so they pushed it to Wednesday, and the attendant was super nice, and she's like, I'm gonna put you on the 5 a.m. flight in case you get bumped to the 7, you just have cushion, mentally, and I was like, thank you so much. And so then I walked out of the airport. I told my brother-in-law was the one who dropped me off, and I was like, hey, come pick me back up so I can go to bed. And so I got basically 2 extra days in the United States, which was a huge blessing. But also I'm so happy to be back in my apartment, back home. I was like, oh, I just want to get there. And then my team we're having a spiritual team retreat this weekend from Friday to Monday. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to prepare for that. And usually when I come back from the airport, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty tired. And most flights in El Salvador land in the afternoon is the earliest, or the evening, around 8. And so this one was in the afternoon, but I came back and I mostly slept that afternoon, and I woke up for 2 hours, and then I went back to bed. And I slept until early this morning. And so I was so tired. I also had 2 nights on this trip where I only had 4 hours of sleep because I played myself in the best way possible, and I regret nothing. But it was very exhausting. But I also wanted to talk about, I was able to go to my church's community group, and able to have just good conversations with family and friends. And I think for me, that was just a huge blessing that the Lord gave me. I had this conversation with someone in my lot family, and I honestly can't remember the specific questions he asked me. I want to say, I was like, what do you think? I might have said that each culture, and talking about culture and how each culture is different and has good and bad aspects, but I do really love the culture that I'm in, being in a hot culture, if you guys know what that means. If not, I'll explain it, no worries. But basically there are 2 definitions of a hot culture and a cold culture. And then there are descriptions for each of these. And so cold culture is gonna be not all of the United States, but most of it. Maybe not the South, but let's take, basically everywhere else. It's a culture that's very event oriented, very maybe time, which kind of sometimes means time oriented. Not saying that people aren't friendly there, but the focus is doing. The focus might be what you do. And then it's going to appear to be more structured. And a hot culture is more people oriented. And so it's more focused on relationships, more focused on like who you are as a person or who you know, who is in your friend group. And again, these cultures are not good. One's not better than the other or worse than the other. They have good and bad aspects of each. For example, like being in a cold culture, you might easily overlook people's needs because you're focused on what you need to do next, your next thing, your next event, your next task at work, and you might overlook a conversation with a coworker or something like that because of the culture that you're in. And again, definitions of cultures are always broad strokes because there's always a huge like spectrum of differences or like adjustments, or I don't know what the words I'm looking for, but in a culture. Anyway, in a hot culture, maybe a negative is that who you know is so powerful that maybe it doesn't matter as much what you do. That's a little dangerous. So maybe you don't have the best work ethic, but because you know the boss and you're good friends with the boss, he promoted you. Or maybe because you're cousins, he promoted you, or you got this job. Things like that can be negative. Anyway, but there are obviously really good aspects too, in terms of like hot, cold cultures. I feel like for overall are focused on efficiency, and that's a beautiful thing. I love that. And hot cultures are, like I said, focused on relationships, focused on connecting with people and for the most part, hearing their stories, which is a beautiful thing. And again, not saying that these cultures don't do that, but just what the big focus is in the broad scheme or something of that culture. Anyway, so I think we were talking about cultures. And I think I was saying how much my personality, I fit into a hot culture so well. And yeah. And so I think we were kind of talking about that. And I think she kind of asked like, what was the biggest thing that I've learned being in a different culture? Because I was also talking about how now that I've lived in a different culture, how important I think is for other people to live, not just go for a week, but like live in a different culture. Now I'm like, everyone should go somewhere different for a year and just like see how it is, maybe a year and a half or 2 years or something. But obviously not everyone gets that opportunity, but I've just been blessed by the Lord. Yeah, I think it's so great. And so we were talking about that, and I was saying, she's like, what's something maybe, good about that culture that you need to bring back to the culture that we're into, the United States. And I told her, and I really feel like, I'm saying like I told her, but I really feel like it was the Holy Spirit who put this on my heart. Because it's not like I asked her like, what do you think you struggle with? Or, like we were just talking. But I said, do less. And even to myself now, I'm like, oh, I think I was preaching to myself. Like, I was like, oh, shoot, do less. Because I think back in the States, when I was so busy with my job, with fundraising, with ministry, all good things. I'm not saying those are bad things at all. But I think at times, maybe not every time, but a lot of the times, the most I could give is 70%. Because I was of being present, specifically in my mind, being present, of being intentional, of listening. Because I feel like there was always in my mind, I was just geared in my culture, in the United States culture, be like, okay, what's next? Okay, what do I need this? What's next on the schedule? What's next? Even just being there for a week and just coming back for a week after not being there for about a year and a half. And again, I did schedule myself out because I knew if I didn't schedule myself out, I would miss seeing people, I'd miss time with my family, and I did not want to do that. So I was like, making a schedule is how I can be intentional. But even in that, I was so like, oh my gosh, what's next? I just like got into that mindset again. And that's not a new mindset for me. I've been in that mindset almost my entire life. And so, yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, just like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What do I do? What do I need to do today? What do I need to do next week? And I was like, just do less. Or maybe think about what you're going to do less. Maybe just be more present, but maybe that's a combination of both. Just be really good at your job and use your job as ministry and be satisfied in that and use your free time in the Lord. Just because you have 2 hours doesn't mean that you're like, okay, how do I fill that 2 hours immediately? even if it's with good things, even if it is with serving in the church. And I'm not saying don't serve in the church, please do, we need it. But I think there's this mindset at least in the culture that I was in, and for me personally, but in the culture in the United States, was just like, for me, I was like, fill your time with everything, because you got to use your time wisely. And I think there are aspects of that that's true. Like being here, I've talked about this, I've struggled with laziness. I've struggled with filling my time wisely because my time is so open. But on the other hand, because my time's so open, I can spend 2 hours in the morning with the Lord. And how much that has changed my life, changed my day. Not because, then my day was a success, quote unquote, or my day was more efficient, quote unquote. That is not what I mean. That's not the result of spending 2 hours in time with the Lord. I could have had a horrible day, but my perspective and my attitude and like my literal heart posture and soul was in a different place because I spent time with the Lord. Because I was like, oh yeah, okay, I don't know, dropped all the eggs that I just bought and made a huge mess. Or I got into a car accident, or, I forgot that I was seeing someone and was, 30 minutes late, and then they had to leave early, so we only got an hour, or whatever the day might be, good or bad, or, successful, quote unquote, unsuccessful, quote unquote. Because I'd spent time with the Lord, it was a good day and it glorified him. And I think in even just being a week back in the United States, the first thing to go that I was like, I can't fit that in my schedule, was time with the Lord. How dangerous that is. And I think that even just like looking back of when right before I left to come to the mission field, of how much I did that, how much I was like, well, first thing, rather than like texting a friend being like, hey, I'm so sorry, can we reschedule? Even if I haven't seen that friend in a good long while, God is always more important. Spending time with him is always more important. And I think when I have so much to do, when I see all the things I need to get done in a day or done in a week, I easily lose seeing the value of spending time with the Lord, because maybe that isn't face-to-face, that isn't meeting someone for coffee or clocking in for work. Like it seems like it can be time that's flexible, or time that can be shifting on your priority list, but everything else needs to be shiftable. Again, not saying you should be like late to work because you're like, I missed time with the Lord. Like, it is flexible, but I think it needs to be priority. It can be flexible, but it needs to be top priority. And I was just really convicted, like going back to the States, of like, especially because I am getting busier here in my ministry, of like not losing that. And I think many times the Lord has reminded me of how funny just he is, but of just like that constant reminder of like, hey, you need to spend time with me. And like, because that is what's going to fill you spiritually, and that is how you can love people well and pour out to people well, is to really know who God is and know what he's done. Because so many times I forget his character, and how easily that leads to sin. Oh my gosh. It's just like, yeah, I'm just reminded by my sin, by like my laziness, or by my selfishness, or by my impatience and anger at times, of like, I did not talk about this with the Lord, or I did not pray about this situation before going into it with the Lord, and how much that changed. Because again, the same situation could happen, but me, like my perspective and spiritually where I'm at, is going to be different when I'm in time for the Lord. So all of that to say is, spend time with our Father, because it is vital. We cannot go a day without him, and when we think we can, that is Satan blinding us. We're getting cloudy, our vision, because Satan distorts our vision, and God brings clarity. So I was really just convicted of that, even just like speaking that out and being like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And another good thing that I experienced this past week was I was able to go to my church and go to the whole service in person. I've been watching the sermons online, which has been really great. But to be able to worship in English with a few hundred people, because I'm pretty sure that's how many people were there, which was crazy. There was so many times while I was worshiping, I just didn't sing, and I just listened to the people around me, not being creepy, but just like how beautiful it was to hear and understand, and people worshiping. And it also made me appreciate, honestly, worship back where I live as well. And just like, even though I have to kind of lock in more to understand what the words that we're saying, how beautiful it is that there are people worshiping all around the world. Like, I was really just overwhelmed with that, with the beauty of worship that night. And it was like, what a gift, especially because I haven't experienced that in a long time. And that made me think of like, I'm such like a big like picture girly that it made me think of like people all around the world who've like never experienced that. And maybe their only experience is like hushed worship with like 10 people, which is beautiful. But to think in heaven, we're gonna all get that experience of worshiping all together. And I don't know how many people will be up there, or wherever, but tons of people. And how exciting that is. Like, I'm so looking forward to that moment in heaven when we're all worshiping. And for me, I'm also excited to be able to look out in the crowd and like, I don't know how it's going to go down in heaven, but hopefully I'll be able to see people that I know across the world, that I've met across the world. I hope I remember them and be like, oh my gosh, I know you from this place, or I knew you from when I was this age, or I don't know how it's going to work in heaven, obviously, but how exciting that is, and how it reminds me like we are made to be worshipers. We are created to be worshipers. And so when we get to worship, especially when we worship the right thing, the right God, it just like fills me with life. Like, I feel like that one service has like killed any burnout that I was potentially feeling, and just like renewed my spirit to the max. And I was just like, I feel like revitalized and ready for the rest of this year. And so what a blessing that is. But yeah, so my trip to the US was really good. I brought a check bag and I packed it. I brought it back here, like, and full of snacks and goods and yummy stuff. They don't really have protein bars here, and if they do, they're really expensive. And so protein bars are expensive in the United States as well, but not as expensive here. And you can't really get them in bulk or like in packs of like 12. And so I got some protein bars, which I'm really excited about. I did put them in the fridge though here, because I don't want them to melt. It's really hot here right now. Oh, that's another thing. It was so cold where I was in the United States, and they really played me, because the day I flew in, it was 70, and the day I flew out, that day was 70. But the days in between, 30s, and at night, even colder. And the wind was insane. And oh my gosh, my body was in shock. Like, I was like, I am unwell. Yeah, and of course I don't have a coat, and I don't know where I packed my coat, to be honest. Probably somewhere deep, somewhere in someone's basement. Haha, shout out. But woo, yeah, it was a struggle. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cold. And here it's like the hottest time of the year. So I came back and I just immediately started sweating, and I was like, lovely. I love that. I love walking out of the shower and not being freezing. I love taking a shower in the morning and not being freezing, and just like drying off like a normal time, and not shivering and rushing to put my clothes on because I need warmth, and not having to have 7 blankets just to be semi-warm, Wow. So yeah, so that was a time. So I just wanted to share a little bit of my trips and what I've learned. I feel like what the Lord's, showed me and reminded me of like how beautiful Christian community is, and how, I don't, also being convicted of like the people who are in my life, who I am blessed to walk with, in this life, how I've been convicted of how I shouldn't how I should challenge them more, basically, and how I have challenged people and myself. But also it's a two-way street. Having people challenge me and me challenging them. Like I don't want to be the only one challenging a person in like a peer-to-peer like spiritual relationship. Like I also want to be challenged, and I also want to be called out on my sin. And that's hard. That's so scary. But I do have like one or two, really like 2 or 3 trusted people in my life who I feel like we could have those conversations, and it would really strengthen our relationship, and we wouldn't be seeing each other when we're challenging each other as like judgment or as condemnation. Is that the right word? But seeing it as a sister in Christ, helping you see a blind spot in your walk or in your sin. So I was really convicted of that, being at my community group, just kind of seeing that. Not even like, it's not like people were calling people out right and left. Hey guys, so speaking of brother, my brother-in-law called me, but we're chilling. They recently purchased a new washer. This is a little side story. Sorry, I'm outing you guys. They recently purchased a new washer, but it's used, but it was struggling. So, and I helped bring it. When I was in the United States, I moved furniture, period. And so one of the things I moved I helped move, not just me, oh my gosh. I helped move their washer down to their basement. And we had a bit of a time. We forgot to attach the drainage hose. Whoops. So when we ran a load, all the water spewed everywhere in the basement. And so I cleaned that up as best I could. But then I reattached a new hose to it because there was one already there. So I just attached it. It was super easy. But then the washer, the little touch screen or whatever, was like, I'm not working, so I'm gonna shut down in the middle of a load. So so that was the whole thing. So right now he's trying to fix it. And so far it seems to be working, so he's gonna do a test load. Anyway, I know you guys really wanted that update, but now I really forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I think I was talking about like challenging people. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And not saying again that my community group was challenging people right and left, just like in front of everyone, but they're in a community where that can happen, where you could hear someone talk about what they're struggling with, and maybe they can't see like a way that they need to either confess and turn to the Lord, or just seek him or trust him more, or just be encouraged, whatever. Maybe they can't see it, but a lot of times another person can, especially same spirit in the Holy Spirit. So even just hearing people and just like praying for them just reminded me again how beautiful Christian community is, and what just a blessing it is to be in Christian community that is focused on the Lord. As I might have mentioned, my team and we have finished reading Ministering in Honor and Shame Cultures. Highly recommend you reading that, even if you're not in an honor and shame culture, because you are. It's just not, everyone is, it just might not be the biggest thing in your culture. Just like how I talked about hot and cold cultures, it's similar. Different, but similar ideas. And so that book is so good, but it talked about different like Christian communities, quote unquote, that can be in churches, and how, like, what kind of the ideal one is. And the ideal one is one that is everyone's looking towards Christ. Everyone might be in different stages. They might be a baby believer, they might be a seasoned believer, like different ages, whatever, that doesn't matter. But someone might be really struggling with habitual sin. Someone else might be having someone else's sin affect them super negatively or something. But how through all of that, the focus of that church is Christ, and people are being redirected to look and focus and point towards the Lord, because he is the one who is the redeemer of everything, can heal everything, everyone. He is the answer. And so just seeing that lived out basically in the church that I went to in the United States is always an encouragement, always a blessing to see. So shout out to y'all. Also, my community group is really good at sending me gifts, and I just love them for that. They've sent me like 2 or 3 gifts since I've been here. which is honestly a lot. And so I just shout out y'all. I love y'all. You're the reason why I can make cold brew. And while I have like an infinite supply of nerd clusters. But yeah, so it was great. It was a great trip, but I'm thoroughly exhausted. And tomorrow we have our team retreat, like I mentioned, which I'm really excited about. We have a new teammate on the field. Shout out, excited that they're here. And you know, obviously gaining a new teammate always changes team dynamics, just like in the workplace. I mean, you know, same thing of when a new coworker is itinerating or is being trained, they change the environment and the mini culture of your work group. But it's always, for me, you know, it can be a challenge, of course, at times, but it's always good. And it's really cool to see how the Lord is convicting a lot of unique individuals to specifically to the country where I'm serving. Because I think we need a lot of people in different life stages and different, just totally different life experiences in order to just connect with people well here in the country that I'm in. Like, be able to connect with, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just a lot of different people. And so what a blessing that is to see the Lord work, because he is truly working. So yeah, so that's all the updates that I have for y'all. I hope this was encouraging to you to dive in the Christian community, or to be in a peer-to-peer relationship that challenges and gives accountability, and you know, you love each other well, but you don't let each other be stagnant, that you continue to grow in the Lord. And yeah, I'm just praying that the Lord grows. I mean, everyone, but really specifically my generation, this next generation. I'm really seeing I just feel like the Lord is, not that he's not working previous ones, he is, but he's really preparing us for something. I don't know what, but probably just preparing us to stand in truth with him, which is exciting. It's always a great thing to be on the Lord's side. We love being on Jesus's team, you know. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great month, because now it's monthly, y'all. Great month, and I'll see you in April, which, shout out, is my birthday month. Woo, 27. Yeah, that's it. Bye.